I would like to introduce Coral because Coral is, I love her. She's, we canvassed last year together when she was mayor, and we just had a blast. And she's a wonderful person, and I'm excited as heck to be canvassing with her and being on the same ticket with her. So with that said, I will get a picture. She wants a picture. Coral, you mayor,
Well, hello everyone. Thank you very much for allowing myself and Felicia to be here today to talk about all things that matter and about this district. And thank you to the Coconino County Democratic Party for pulling all of us together. So I believe most of you know me, third generation daughter of Flagstaff, but I want to kind of give a context as to why I am running. So in 2008, I decided to run for council because I felt people were not being heard. We were fighting to save a historic center in the middle of town, a small little building, and at that time, City Council wasn't listening. When I ran for council in 2008, I was told, not going to happen. You're a community organizer, you're with the little neighborhood association, not going to happen. And I won. And one of the things I dedicated the time to was making sure that people were heard. Not only important people, but all the rest of us that were not so important and maybe didn't understand the system. So in 2015, I was sitting on council, and a lady came to talk about her house that was being taken away. She was undocumented, she didn't speak English very well, and it was a trailer. And at that particular time, the individual who was leading the meetings, the mayor, said, "We have important stuff to get to, you need to wrap this up." Because she started crying during public participation. And so I decided at that time, her story was extremely important, and I wanted to hear it, and I wanted to make sure that other people's stories also got heard. And the only way to do that was to be the individual who was leading the meetings. So I decided to run for mayor. At that particular time, I was told, not going to happen. You are running against an incumbent. It's a very hard race. You're seen as a community organizer. Not going to happen. I got sworn in 2016. Now the reason I tell you this story is because what we're about to do is something that has not been done before. Felicia and I are running. Where'd Felicia go? She moved. We're running in LD-6. We're running as Democrats. That hasn't happened. But I want you to know that a lot of things haven't happened. I guarantee you when a sharecropper decided that he wanted to run for Congress, the son of a sharecropper, I'm sure that there were individuals there telling him, not going to happen. Yet it did. So, the reason I ran for mayor was 3 reasons that lead us here today. I think there's room at the table for everybody. And I think sometimes that's either building a bigger table or putting up another seat. Because I think that everybody matters and that you can have a much better conversation and come to a much better solution when you have all voices being heard. I think it's important to work with the people that are on the team. So for example, as mayor, I'm very committed to working with my other 6 council members because I know that nothing happens in isolation and I have 1 vote. Something that's at a municipal level is that we are not partisan. So when someone calls me and says that they have a pothole and they have a problem, I don't go and ask, is that an RRD? I ask where it's at, how long it's been there, and how we can get it fixed. The third thing I think is extremely important is that we need to take the vision of who we are, and we need to hold it up, and we need to filter our decisions through that. I think that is key. And I think one of the things that we lack in LD-6, and quite frankly in Arizona, is what that vision is, and what it is we're trying to do. So that leads me to 3 major issues. Felicia talked about other major issues. I'm going to add a finer point to some of them, and then I'm going to bring up another one. So education. My mom was a school teacher. I myself taught GED, adult education, and ESOL, English for speakers of other languages. If we are going to be the best that we can be and make sure that our future generations can be the best that they're going to be, we need to focus on education, and we need to decide that we're going to be good at it. The whole entire system. As Felicia said, this is from birth all the way to beyond. So we're talking about adults who need to be retrained right now because we've had 1,000 jobs in this particular district lost. Those individuals were making good money and taking care of family members. They need retraining. We also need to make sure that our kids are ready to go when they hit kindergarten. And I went to a trade school first. I got my GED. I went to a trade school and got a certificate in computer operations. I landed a very good job at W.L. Gore & Associates, and they paid for my bachelor's degree. We need to make sure that there's room for everybody within this educational sphere to make sure that everybody can be successful. I grew up playing ice hockey on an all-boys competition team. And I was first string. Left defense. I can tell you what, though. How many of you guys have played hockey before? Know anything about the sport? Well, you guys will know what I'm talking about. So there's something called a hat trick. And that is when someone makes 3 goals in a game. Because you're just really that good. And there's something called a playmaker. That's when you help somebody make 3 goals. My coach would reward the playmakers. He ignored the hat tricks. You know why? Because he said you're only as good as your weakest player. It doesn't matter if you have a rock star, you're only as good as the weakest player on that team who's on the ice at that particular time. That's why we need to make sure that everybody has access to appropriate education to get where they need to go in this state. I want to talk about our environment. I've been all over the district. Truly, we live in the most beautiful place on earth. Every part of this district, it's unique, it's different, but it is beautiful. And you know what? It's because of that that we have the economic opportunities that we have. We need to make sure we preserve that. Not only for our quality of life and the spiritual peace that it brings, but also because we get a lot of tax dollars from its beauty. In June, I was in D.C. talking to the Natural Resources Committee. And I was talking about this issue of uranium and mining and why we need to stop it. Because water is important. We don't have a lot of it. It's pretty finite. One bad mistake, and we all are going to have to find a different place to live. We need to take care of our environment. One thing that the city of Flagstaff did that I think could be done statewide is we have a climate action and adaptation plan. We understand that maybe at the federal government, the federal level, we're not so concerned about that. But at a local level, there's things that we can do to make a change, to make sure that we mitigate our impact on our environment, and that we do it in a way that is sustainable. Local control. So let's talk about local control. One of the issues that we currently have right now with our state representatives is that only maybe 5 or 6 have ever served at a municipal level. So you have this idea that government should be run like a business. I have an MBA, and I can tell you that government should be efficient and effective with our tax dollars. We should be mindful of our tax dollars and how they're spent and spend them the best way possible, as well as our time. Our time is also valuable. But I can also tell you, having an MBA, running a nonprofit, running a small business incubator that works on helping people who live in poverty create their own businesses, because we believe that small business ownership is the way out of poverty, I can tell you that not everything can be measured in dollars and cents. For example, what is the return on investment of a public library? What is the return on investment of a park? What is the return on investment to a community that has high-speed internet access? So they can go to school online, so they can work online?
It all affects their productivity.
What's the return on investment of a quality education? So what you have is you have people who do not have experience in municipal government, and they're running for office and they're getting elected, and they don't understand how these things balance and what the true return on investment is for community. So the plastic bag issue. How many of you guys think, and I was the one that wanted to ban the plastic bags, think it was because of the environment? You guys have heard the story before, I can tell. So this particular, okay, you did? Okay, you admit it? Okay. So this particular, I care about the environment. I just talked about the environment. In this particular issue, it was in the middle of our downturn, the recession. We were looking at closing one of our libraries. We were looking at closing one of our recreation centers that was in the middle of a high-need area. And we were looking at closing, partially closing, 3 days a week, another recreation center that was in the same type of neighborhood. We needed $150,000 to keep those things open. So I started going through the budget. I was looking for pennies to add up to dollars. My grandfather used to say, watch your pennies, you get dollars out of them. And I ran across something in the landfill that said $180,000 picking up trash in the landfill. So I was like, I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole. I was like, why are we spending $180,000 picking up trash in the landfill? There's a federal requirement that you pick up all the trash that blows out of the landfill, and guess what 95% of the trash that's blown out of the landfill was? So I said, wow, 180,000? I only need 150 of it. We need to get rid of these bags. And I'm sure, being the community that we are, someone's got a sewing machine and someone's going to come up with a business idea to make bags that they can sell. Win-win all the way around. We talked about this on Tuesday night at the dais. By next Tuesday, the state had banned us banning plastic bags. To me, that was an unfunded mandate, because we as a community are trying to figure out how to best maximize our tax dollars, how they can go the farthest. And you just said we could not do this, so then you owe us $180,000 because it's an unfunded mandate. So we have an issue all over the state with these unfunded mandates and stripping of local control. You know, Tucson was doing a gun buyback program, and they were melting them down. They were doing that as a way to do community policing and take care of issues. That's against the law for them to do that. In Tempe, they decided they didn't want any dark money in their local politics. I think it was 90% of them voted on that. State stepped in and said that's against the law. Who best to govern local issues than us? Every city and town is unique. What we should do as a state is be focusing on how we're going to take care of the education system, right? How we're going to take care of our environment and our water needs. How we are going to take care of our health care. And leave other things to local jurisdictions. So this is why I'm running. Those are my top issues that I have, and that's the experience that I bring to this. And I'm looking forward to any and all questions that you have. And I want to make sure we understand one more thing before I leave. Felicia got within 577 votes. Yes. 577 votes. This is possible. This is possible. Thank you.
Thank you.